that's what makes triple S, right? Okay, so today we have 3 case studies to present to you. They're based on instructional leadership. We're going to talk about a case in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So we're going to start with the middle school case, and this is going to be, oh, it's not? Okay. All right, so this is nature of science and evolution. And I'm really passionate about this topic because every science teacher has to go through this ordeal of how to teach evolution and when to teach it. What's the right time to teach it? And in this case, we have a teacher who's trying to teach this in middle school, and let's see how they progress through it. But before that, I want to test you guys. I want to see if you guys know the nature of science. Because if you have a strong hold on the nature of science, then you will have no problem teaching evolution. So here's my quiz for you, and I would like to entice you to these lovely Hershey bars that Mr. Swiley will distribute if you get them right. So, are you guys ready for the quiz question? Okay, so here goes. True or false? Scientific knowledge is testable and subject to change in light of new discoveries. What do you guys think?
Quiet 5 is the only person that gets called. No shouting out.
Oh.
I was like, what's quiet 5?
Right here was the first.
Yes, ma'am.
True.
That is correct.
I don't
It
eat chocolate.
is true.
I will take it.
See,
She was ready for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you are right, ma'am. It is true. Scientific theories, they're subject to change. So when you have new evidence that's being presented, the scientist has to rethink and then retest his theory and then go ahead and publish a new proof or a new law or postulate a new hypothesis. And that is the nature of science. So you have that down. And I wanted to bring your attention up here. I don't know if you guys remember this episode from Friends when Ross and Phoebe get into this fight about evolution. And eventually, Ross realizes that he needs to have an open mind. Because according to Phoebe, the brightest minds of our time, they actually thought that the earth was flat at one point in time, right? So then they were presented with new evidence, and now everyone believes, not everyone believes that the earth is round, it's an oblate spheroid, but most of us do, all right? So next question, true or false? Scientific claims are purely based on rational reasoning. Who would like to answer that? Remember, there are 2 schools of thought. There's the school of rational thinking, and there's the school of empirical thinking. And, false. That's right, good job, all right. You guys have a good grasp on the nature of science. So here's my little joke for this. This is Rene Descartes, and if you guys remember what he says, I think, therefore I am. So now he stops thinking for a second, and now he's dead, right? So that's a flaw in that's a flaw in the thinking of rationalist philosophers. It's very, very theoretical, but you need empirical, hard evidence, which science provides to you. Okay, so right here, it is false because you need empirical evidence. Empirical is something that can be seen with the eyes and you can touch with your hands. Your 5 senses need to acknowledge that artifact, right? And here, we have an entire fossil record of ray fin fish all the way to modern amphibians and all the other fossils that you have in between. You have seen these fossils over a course of time, over a course of millions of years, where you're actually able to look at the fossil and see the point at which it managed to evolve and start building its limbs. So there was a genetic mutation that allowed a fossil to start producing limbs, and at this point here, and I can't point it out, but at this point right here is where you have a fossil called Tiktaalik, and it started to produce limbs, and it could do a push-up, basically. You have fish that can do a push-up. So it decided to walk on land, and now you have the beginning of amphibian life. And this is evident in the fossil record. It's not deniable because you can see it right there. So you have a really, really good grasp on the nature of science for that one. Okay, next one, true or false? Science is driven by observation of the natural world, okay, I should use the hand first, as well as inferences that are made to make sense of the observations.
True.
Yes, ma'am. True, yay. Yes, where's the candy? He's got the
I'd like to donate my candy to my dragon mate.
How do you know?
Aww.
Oh, thanks. Fellow dragon.
Okay, so if you guys look up here, this is a 10-year challenge. In the left petri dish, you have bacteria that are actually killed by these antibiotic discs that you see in the picture, right? 10 years later, these bacteria have evolved to a point where they're not sensitive to antibiotics anymore. So they cannot be killed by that antibiotic. And you see, in 10 years, you have seen that evolution, more specifically microevolution. And And how does this happen? Well, like she mentioned before, the scientific process involves experimentation, right? You look at some natural phenomena, you come up with a hypothesis, and then you provide an explanation for it. And in this little cartoon, you see one bacterium offering a piece of DNA to the other bacterium, resulting in bacterial transformation. And now the new bacteria is resistant to the antibiotic because it's able to synthesize biomolecules that can kill or basically destroy that antibiotic, right? So thank you so much. You guys have a great, great handle on the nature of science. So now that you understand the nature of science, it's going to be very, very easy to tackle evolution.